Hello YouTube, this is me doing a post-mortem for my game, Ploxe Dungeon. It's now live on Google Play, and you can go check it out if you want, or you can just stick around. This is mostly me talking. I'm not going to really display the game. If you want to look to see how the game functions, I will create another video in my other channel, which is my gaming channel, and I'll be playing the game. But this video is mostly me talking over the title screen or perhaps the main menu, so you won't see much action here. So one of the things you probably notice is that on the bottom right corner, you see Dadozi Games 2020. I've renamed the group that's I'm working on for the games I'm working on. It used to be Truly Stupid Games, but I renamed it to Dadozi Games for obvious reasons. One of them is I'm going to try to take making games more seriously. Truly Stupid Games was besides bouncing off my channel, which is Truly Stupid Noob. It also was a sort of a joke name because I wasn't taking making games seriously. But Dadozi, it's actually the name comes from my family because we have a new baby, so we're taking the first syllable of each person's name and then doing something with it. So it's not because I'm a dad that says Dad Dozy. There's nothing to do with dad. It's more like each syllable. So hopefully that I'll release more games under that name. So this is my third game. I don't know if you guys have checked out my first two games, but they are not really good. The third game, this game I'm actually feeling pretty confident about, and that's a good thing. The first game was after over a decade of game development and not being able to finish a game. It was Dorn's Dungeon Crawler. I was having a perpetual cycle of starting games, never finishing them, making some sort of tech demo out of it, and then dropping it because I realized the game was terrible and I couldn't finish it. So I thought that if I just kept doing that, and eventually I'll make a good game, but that never happened after like 10 years. So I thought, okay, so I'm gonna finish a game even if it's terrible, and it was terrible, but I finished it. So at least I broke that cycle, right? The second game, Ploxe Online, was more of a glorified tech demo. It didn't have a lot of content, and it didn't really play very well as a game. What was really interesting was me learning about multiplayer, like not just multiplayer, but creating some pretty hard multiplayer right on the first try. So if it sounds like a tech demo, it pretty much is, because I was hoping to use that game to show others that I can program and hopefully get a job as a programmer. Unfortunately, that didn't work. I guess the industry doesn't work like that, or unless you get really lucky. So that's done. At least I learned a few things. And also made my first 90 cent as a game developer. So I guess since I made some money as a game developer, even if it's under $1, I guess I can qualify myself as an indie developer. Kinda. No, maybe not. Anyways. The third game, the reason for me making it is to try to make a game that's pretty good, that I would be comfortable, pretty proud of. Not just a glorified tech demo, as all my previous games are, but something that plays fairly decently. And another purpose of my game is hopefully I'm going to start to change the way I make games. So before, I make games to learn, of course, that's very important, and for fun, and for hopefully attracting attention for potential in future career. But now I'm going to treat game development as a hobby, and hopefully we'll get some profit from it. So let me explain. So right now, as I am, because we just have a new baby, I'm not interested anymore in finding a programming job unless it's super secure, and that's not likely going to happen. My job pays pretty well, and gives me a lot of free time to do things like study and learn new things. So, as I'm planning to keep my job for the last 10 years, I'm going to try to fulfill my passion for game development through creating games and just leave it at that. It's not going to be a tech demo, and I'm not going to use that in my resume. I'm just going to create games, and that's going to be it. There's a lot of advantages of creating games on your own rather than working for a company as a programmer, or you have a lot more creative control. And I believe that I'm going to miss the creative control if I become a programmer for a company. I've worked with a lot of programmers in the last few years, and I don't really envy their job because they're working on very difficult things, and they have to respond to like the latest technology, and they have to use what other people tell them to do. They're kind of like using their skills, but not in a way that makes them excited. Well, maybe if you get really lucky, but I don't plan to test my luck. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna work on my stable job and hopefully do some game programming as a hobby. As for the future of this channel, I guess you have noticed that I haven't released a lot of content, almost like no content since my tutorials. Part of the reason is because of the baby. It takes a lot of time. Other reasons is because I'm focusing most of my time working on video games like Ploxe Dungeon rather than making YouTube channels videos. YouTube channel videos have to have some content, but I'm not planning to make videos out of me making my games like Ploxe Dungeon. In fact, I did not announce this game until just after it was released. One of the reasons why I don't want to announce games is because I feel once you've announced the game, then you're setting a certain expectation of how the game is supposed to be. And you lose a bit of control after that because let's just say you release a game and you show some features, and if people dig the video that you released, and they're going to expect those features when the final game comes. So if you, for example, you decide to change the entire game how it works, you scrap the game or you change the mechanics, then some people are not going to be happy, or they're going to be confused because that was not the game you advertised. People understand that game development you change, but I feel that if I don't announce what I'm releasing, then I have more control over whether if I even want to finish the project or how the project's going to go. So hopefully, but if you want videos, I mean, you could ask. Maybe on my next game I would create some videos, but that's might not be likely. Another thing is for those who are in the channel for my music, I haven't written anything like in virtually in the last 8 or 7 years. I haven't written any music at all. I've been focusing mostly on putting a game together. Games can use really good music. That's great, but I'm reusing the old music that I have written a long time ago, and I'm focusing on improving my games. I think that the way I can improve my games is not to write better music, but to work on my other areas which are weaker. And I'm focusing on game dev at the moment. And as for the tutorials, I've created 3 tutorials for for Darkrift 2, which is a Unity third-party soft add-on that allows Unity games to play online. And I want to thank Darkrift 2 very much for giving their product away for free. I really hope that my tutorials help in my contribution back to the Darkrift 2 communities. And I don't think my tutorials were very good, but I'm overwhelmed by the positive response, especially for the high number of views. I did not expect that many views. I was inspired to use Darkrift 2 by a person called Yasil. He created a series called Yasil Gaming Night Programming or something like that, and he didn't have as many views in a lot of his videos, and I highly respect them. So I don't think I deserve as many views, but thank you anyways. Also, for the Ploxe Online, which I released, my second game, the MMO, I don't know which one of you gave the game a 5-star review. I definitely know I do not deserve 5 stars because as a person who have played like thousands of hours of MMOs and dozens of MMOs, I know my limitations, and that game is likely not a good game. But for all of the people who gave it 5 star, I am really thankful. I don't deserve it, but thanks. And to the people who give 1 star, yeah, I totally understand what you mean. Hello, sorry about that. I was starting the game from the wrong scene, so I was not properly loading all of the game's assets. That's why it wasn't working. So I'm going to start the game, and I would like to talk about the difference between this game and the previous game. If you have not played the previous game, it's very bare bone. But the concept of this game is I kept some similarity in the gameplay, but I also used some features from Doran's Dungeon Crawler. So the feature I used from Doran's Dungeon Crawler was the randomly generated levels. So it's pretty much like that. But the gameplay is very similar to Ploxe Online, with a lot of additions to hopefully make the game more fun. Uh, so okay, so I'll talk about the new features for this game. The first new feature is offline. So I'll just use this as a post-it note. Yes, this game can be fully played offline from beginning to end. You don't need to watch any ads. You don't need to buy anything. It's all available offline, but it also has a fully featured online feature. Well, it can play with other players online, but it's instanced. It's not a global world. So you can play in a dungeon, and the other player can play in the same dungeon, but they have different levels because it's randomly generated, and they're both playing at the same time, but they're not encountering each other unless they're in the same party. So that's another thing that this game has, is this party system. In the previous game, there was no party. Everybody was just playing by themselves. But if you are in a party in this one, then you will both be in the same dungeon, and when one player completes the dungeon, everybody finishes the dungeon successfully. Another thing I improved a lot is the skills. So skills. I will show you the skills. So in the old game, every character get 2 skills, and that was it. Not only did each character only get 2 skills, but they also each skill only did one thing. For example, if a skill attacked, that's the only thing it would do. It wouldn't do any other thing. It wouldn't do a defense down buff. It wouldn't have conditions like if you hit them from behind, it hurts more, or it can't do 2 things. It can't heal you, and they'll do damage at the same time. But now I've made the skills system more modular. I can have almost infinite amount of effects that one skill can have. For example, if this one does a buff to yourself and nearby allies for 12 seconds, increase speed by 70 and dodge by 10, and you can upgrade it. That's another feature. You can upgrade skills. Each component can be removed or changed. For example, you can enhance self only, or you don't enhance self and you enhance nearby allies, or you enhance nearby allies only with certain conditions. So I've created a system where I have a lot more flexibility to create new skills, and I can create them in about 10 seconds because they're modular. I just add a bunch of pre-made components, and to describe the skill, like by using scriptables, it's much easier for me. So, another thing that's new about this game is projectiles. So projectiles. Projectiles are there were fake projectiles in the previous game, but in reality, all of the monsters, all they did was walk up to you and hit you. That was pretty much it. There was no anything except for melee attacks. So in this game, they're real projectiles, not just an illusion of projectiles, but actual projectiles that travel across the screen and, of course, replicates in multiplayer. It's such a simple mechanic, but I feel it adds a lot more gameplay depth, especially if monsters can use projectiles. So hopefully that will make things better. Another thing I have are area of effect skills. So area of effect skills are circular red zones that explode after a given time and do damage in the area. So it gives you a time to get out of their area, and then if you don't get out of the area, then you'll take damage. Again, that was not in the Ploxe Online. Hopefully, that will give players more variety. So that's pretty much all the new features for monsters, except for boss patterns. I would say boss patterns. So the bosses in this game, unlike the previous game where they just attacked you, the boss in this game have patterns, which is inspired by some MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV, World of Warcraft, where bosses don't just go up and attack you. They have phases, and they have behavior that changes. The boss patterns here are very simple, but each of the 4 bosses have a different pattern. The first one has a bunch of AoEs that spawn in a clockwise fashion, while the boss alternates between hitting you and casting AoEs, and you have to run away from the boss. The second boss does a splash AoE attack that when they hits the target, it also hits everyone around them. Third boss shoots a lot of projectiles, and the walls also shoot projectiles, and the fourth boss spawns AoE underneath the player rather than in a clockwise fashion. So it's very simple patterns, but if I wanted to, I could create more complex patterns. The basis of boss patterns is there. And another thing that is new for gameplay is reflect. This is very simple, but certain equipment, if you equip them, it will reflect damage back to the attacker. Originally, I intended monsters to have reflect, but I've removed that for gameplay reasons, and I only have the player reflect damage. So that's another feature. I haven't written this down, but random dungeon. So the dungeons are randomly generated. In the Ploxe Online, all of the fields were preset. They were pretty empty because I did not have AI for pathfinding. So I don't know if you guys have tried Ploxe Online, but each map was basically an empty field, and the monsters wouldn't even be aware of the walls because they were just trained to walk directly in a straight line towards you. And I would assume there were no walls between you and the monsters because each field is a rectangular empty space. So there's no walls to run into. You can always draw a direct line between 2 players at any time. But in this game, there is pathfinding, and the monsters will be able to find you if they aggro you by traveling through the randomly generated dungeon. The reason why I didn't do pathfinding in the second game wasn't because I didn't know how to do pathfinding, but because the game server was running on my computer, and I didn't want my if the game was successful, I don't want my computer to be doing a lot of pathfinding for years to come. But that's kind of a lame reason because I know a lot of people they have Ragnarok servers on much older computers. My computer is pretty new. The Ragnarok Online, they have pathfinding, they have all kind of stuff, and they've been running on the private servers, and it works really well. So that was a lame reason. Another new thing that this game have is upgraded aggro. Let's say aggro. So in the old version, the aggro system was much simpler, and there was no real way to tank because the aggro is very, very basic. But this one, I think that the aggro is a bit more complicated. I'm not going to explain how it works, but at least you can build a tank build. So you can do pull aggro. So that's another thing. Instances. This is for online only. So in the previous game, Ploxe Online, there was just one giant world. So everybody shared the same world. But in this game, each world is a small like capsule onto itself. So when you create a dungeon, you create an instance of a dungeon, and then you run through that, and you can have multiplayer. So multiple people, up to three people, players in an instance. But then once you finish the dungeon, that instance is gone because it's random, it's not going to be regenerated. When you play the dungeon again, it's going to be a different instance. So maybe if I do a future game, I will combine the global world with instances. But since this game is offline, mainly offline game with optional multiplayer, I felt that instead of have a global world, which requires online connection, I would rather have offline game where you do not need off connection and have instance multiplayer. That I felt was the right choice. Another thing I have is skill levels. Skill levels. As you can see here, each skill, every character has 5 skills, and they can be upgraded, both for power and cooldown. So one gameplay element that's similar between the two games is that all of the skills only require cooldown to be recasted. They don't require mana. You don't ever tire yourself out by using the same skill again and again. As long as the cooldown is done, you can reuse the skills. So you can you can upgrade the cooldown here, and you can upgrade the power. Another thing that this game has is graphics setting. Graphics setting. So the reason why I included this was this game was playing terrible on my phone. Like my first phone, I use it for testing, and it works perfectly fine on Ploxe Online. It runs smoothly, but Ploxe Dungeon is not so good. I have an idea why, but I decided to do graphic settings just so that lower phones can also play it, but it doesn't really help that much. I tried playing it with other devices. The graphic setting doesn't make such a difference, but at least it is there. I'm not sure if I will keep graphic settings in the future, but it's nice to have. Another thing I improved over the previous game is, I would say, UI. Oh well, this game can be played in much. It looks better than Ploxe Online if you play it in the wrong aspect ratio, like wrong quote-unquote aspect ratio or wrong resolution. In the Ploxe Online, the UI, I was not very good at it, so it looks okay if you play it using the right resolution and right aspect ratio, but once you use a different phone, like a 4x3 or ultra-wide, it looks terrible, I think. So I've learned how to create UI that works well on all devices, so hopefully this is an improvement from the previous games. And here is something that I did not have in my previous game, tutorial. So a lot of games, these days they have a mandatory tutorial. The first thing you do when you boot the game teaches you how to play, so they make sure you're not lost. I know a lot of people, they like just to skip the tutorial, so for this game, instead of creating an integrated tutorial as you play, I created a tutorial button. So I'll show you right here, the tutorial. This is the tutorial. If you want to check out the tutorial, you can download the game and check it out yourself. If you notice, I created the UI by using the right side of the screen, so that people can chat and play at the same time. Also, and another thing I did is very small. It's when you click the UI, instead of closing, it creates a transparent UI, so it's good for if you're in game and you want to see what is going on in the upper left corner. Hopefully that's an improvement and not a bad decision. Another thing that I have in this game that I don't have in Ploxe Online is purchases. I know a lot of you won't like this, but like I explained earlier, my purpose for making video games is different. I'm no longer looking to make a nice tech demo to show my friends and potential employers. I am looking to treat game development seriously, and given that I made less than $1 in my previous game, and yes, I know that the game wasn't very good, and I deserve that. I don't deserve any money, honestly. But if I am to make games, I would want to make it that is I can there's a financial reason for me to make the games. I know that sounds selfish, but game development is a real job, and some people do make game development for a living. So hopefully, maybe I'll be able to make more than $1 on certain games. I try to be very fair. So one of the things I make for the games is like my purchases. I'll show you. This one is a debug build for Unity editors, so it doesn't reflect the price, but the price for this is respectively from top to bottom is $3 Canadian, $2 Canadian, and $1 Canadian. So you can spend a maximum of $6 Canadian, which is like $5 US or less. And all of the things you get is basically ad skips or just it changes the. Oh, uh-oh. I am sorry, but I think that the screen was it's not showing the full thing. So I'm going to try to show the full thing. We're gonna lose the chat. Oh no! Okay, let's try maximize on play. Okay, now it's a full screen. I'm sorry about the previous screen. I was not looking at my recording screen, so I did not know that it was not properly displaying the screen. Anyways, I was saying that you can only spend $6 Canadian. Hopefully you don't have to spend anything. That is completely optional. I try to make games not in a way that doesn't force you to spend money. In fact, it's better you don't spend money. But my theory is that if you want to spend money, I will give you a very small incentive to do it. Very small, but it's more of a support the developer thing than giving you an actual boost. And there's ads in this game too, but hopefully they're not too intrusive. Like I said before, you can complete the entire game fairly quickly without watching a single ad or a single purchase. In fact, they don't really help you that much, unless you keep repeatedly dying. But you don't. I've played this game quite a few times, and I can assure you that it's very easy to complete the game without dying once, as long as you know what to do. So, if you want to read the tutorial, that's going to help you how to play the game without dying. All right. So, yeah, that was it for the new settings, the new features. So we're going to talk about the features that are gone. Yes, the features are gone. And I guess you're wondering, why am I comparing myself so much with the previous game? Because this game is largely based off the previous game. So the whole existence of this game has a huge tie to the previous game. So I feel it would be nice to compare this game with the previous game rather than starting from scratch. So one of the things that are removed from this game is trade. You cannot trade. The reason is because this is an offline game. If we traded, then that could be dangerous, because even Monster Hunter doesn't have a lot of trade. That being the content is being generated offline, and if you're injecting offline things into online trade, that could throw things off balance. Anyways, the global world is gone. So global world, that's gone. Again, this game is offline, so it doesn't make sense to always have a global world. The SQL is gone. So for those who watched the tutorial, this game does not use SQL. This game does not hold any persistent data on the server side. All the persistent data is on the client side, which is the player. And I don't store any of your data or whatever you do. I would like to, because I'm curious to know how you guys are going to play the game. But then again, I decided not to put a feature that allows people to opt out of sharing their info, so I turn it off by default, as in 100% of the time. There is no sending of gameplay metrics. The only thing that you're sending is just enough to run the multiplayer, like the position and the health and stuff like that. I don't even know what level you are. I don't know even what character you're playing. Well, yeah, I'm not storing any of that. So hopefully, as a result, I don't need SQL anymore. There's nothing to store. Everything is on client side. I don't have quests, so these quests are gone. The quest on the Ploxe line was very poorly done. It barely even worked, and I think it's broken. But I felt that some games they use quests to incentivize daily playing. So when you play, you want to complete your daily quests so that you get the fastest boost in the least amount of time. The idea is to let players that play very infrequently to be able to at least get some decent progress. You spend very little time, you get maximum progress. But then, if you want to spend more time, then you get diminishing returns because you're not getting the bonus from the daily quest. While I do like the idea, and I actually played a lot of games with daily quest, I did grow up with daily quests. When I first played games like on the NES, Super Mario, there were no daily quests. You were just completed the challenge, and you were not expected to continuously play every day to get bonuses. So I decided to make a game where instead of encouraging you to play often, I just set the gameplay mechanics and let you decide when and how you want to play, and then there's no benefits. That was a design decision. So I could have made quests, but I don't think that was a good idea. The other one is login. You don't have to log in. There's no username password. Everything is on the client side, so there's nothing to log in. The only thing you log in is sort of like you connect to the server and you sort of give a bit of your multiplayer information, but the username and password are completely gone. The last thing is gone is the whisper. You cannot whisper people because since it's offline, like completely offline, you can't have duplicate character names. I could use friend codes, like I can use like a 6-digit alphanumeric code for every unique player, but then how would I know they are unique unless I have like a really long generated text, like a UUID, which is almost guaranteed to be unique. But then if you want to whisper someone, then you will have to probably have to get their UUID. That can be done, but I decided instead of having whisper, I'll just have global chat, and I would have party chat. Anyways, okay, that's a list of features that is gone from the previous game. Hopefully it's not too long. Probably it's too long. Okay, so hopefully if you want to see the game in action, you can check out the next video, which is just about gameplay. For the I guess we'll talk about what I learned from this game. Just not too long, but one thing I discovered is that originally I thought this game would be super easy, but it's not that easy. One of the reasons why I thought it would be easy is because I felt I was reusing a lot of ideas and kind of gameplay elements from previous games. So all I had to do is put them together, and then just press play, and then it would kind of work. Unfortunately, I changed how I implemented this game quite a few times. First of all, the original idea was to have something very similar to Ploxe Online. So it was SQL based, so mainly server side. But as I start to think about the idea of offline play, the more I felt that the server side idea seemed kind of unnecessary. So then I created a hybrid of offline and online. So if you're offline, you will play an offline version of the game. But then when you went online, then the server would handle everything. So it played differently if you play online or offline in the background. So the way it was calculating things was different. But then having two ways of doing the gameplay was actually very difficult. Like if you want to have multiple ways to play the game, each way has to be thoroughly tested. One new way will have new ways to have problems. Like every feature is more possibilities for bugs and added complexity. So I decided to do everything offline. So I actually created the servers and the gameplay logic 3 times. And gameplay logic is actually a lot more complicated than I believe than Ploxe Online, even though it looks and feels a lot similar. How I implemented it, it's almost completely different. There's almost like no code that is reused. And this game, I feel it's much more modular. So it has room for growth. It's not like hard coded. And I think that it can form a good basis for future games because how flexible this game is and how much the skill and AI system can be expanded with very, very little effort. So that was that. About the creating games with while having a baby. I mean, I can't really speak for other people, but all babies are different. But I do know that it's very difficult to do anything when you have kids, and especially the first few months. I heard a lot of gamers are not able to play video games, at least as often as they do once they have the kids. So, but I feel that if you put a little time every day, when you have free time, you can do a lot of things. Even game development. A lot of people feel they don't have time for game development, especially if they have a full-time job and a child. I believe that maybe it really depends on who you are and what's your situation. But even then, I believe you'll be surprised the amount of time you could spend if you just sacrifice everything else, which is hard to do. But yeah. I'm running out of things to talk about. There was a lot of things that happened during the development that I could probably do in another video, but right now it's not totally coming into my mind. Like I'm not thinking about what to talk about. I did create notes, but I did not create notes about my experience creating this game. I learned a few things about this game. I think I learned a lot. Between this game and the previous game, I actually watched about $150 of Unity and C# tutorials from Udemy. A few years ago, I saw a lot of ads for Udemy training, and they were like, you can learn to create games on Udemy. And then I saw, like, you should learn how to create Unity games on Udemy. And I thought to myself, hey, I know already how to create games on Udemy. And there are tons of tutorials on YouTube. Tons of tutorials. There's first of all, I don't need tutorials. And if I do need tutorials, I can check them on YouTube. Turns out I was wrong. The Udemy courses were definitely worth it. I would say that I had my time well spent learning from Udemy. And actually, I'm going to review the courses after I finish this game. Well, I already finished the game, so I'm going to review the courses. And if you guys are looking for high quality courses, I would suggest check out YouTube first. Before you spend any money, I guess you can see if game development is for you. If I think it's for you, if you really think you can drop like $13 on a Udemy course to see if it's any good, make sure that it has a lot of reviews. It was worth it for me. So hopefully the things I learned from Udemy will help this game a bit. Not sure exactly how I can prove it because this game probably would break. I don't have high confidence on the online feature because it's just so complex and it's so hard to test. But I have more confidence than the previous game. Anyways, I will sum it up, and maybe I'll create another video later if more things come to mind. I'll talk about my next game. So my next game is slightly going to be MMO again, because I believe in the power of reiteration. A lot of people make fun of people who reiterate too often. For example, FIFA gets a lot of mockery for releasing the same game. But hey, it's soccer. You're releasing a soccer game. Guess what? Next year is going to be another soccer game. Soccer doesn't really change. I guess you can have space soccer with jetpacks, but last time I checked, The only new things players were probably wearing is, I don't know, maybe masks. but but the idea is that you reuse like 80% of the material you use from previous game. You don't create a whole game from scratch, right? You you create a lot of new things, but you keep some of the old things so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. So one of the easiest way for me to not have to reinvent the wheel is to create another MMO, because that's what sort of I've been creating the last few two games. That would mean that would retire Ploxe Online. I'd like to quickly create Ploxe Online 2 or Ploxe MMO. That's one possibility. The other possibility is creating a VR game. I've been super interested in VR, but I do not know if a one-man VR project can create anything substantial outside of a glorified tech demo, which I've been doing a lot of. I've been creating a lot of tech demos, but I don't want a tech demo. I want a game that's really fun to play, and I'm not sure that I'm the perfect person to get the task, especially that Steam costs 130 Canadian to publish. Of course, you get your money back if you earn $1,000, but I'm not confident in my ability to earn $1,000. So maybe I'll just keep doing mobile games until I can earn some money. Then I'll go with a VR game. And the last thing, I might be interested in the card games. So I really love playing card games these days. Not like often, but I played a VR card slash quote unquote game called Dragon's Front. That was really fun for me. I like the idea of how players can generate strategies out of not that much content, but it's just like you give them a bunch of stuff and the whole world opens up of different strategies and stuff. So hopefully, but I know it requires a lot of fine tune, and I'm not a person for fine tuning, so maybe that's not a good idea. So about the next game, one of the biggest inspiration for me was Ragnarok Online. I used to play that game a lot, and my mom also played Ragnarok Online, so that's a fun fact. Ragnarok Online is not a perfect game, but for me, it has a lot of elements that I feel an MMO should have, and I could not get the feeling of playing Ragnarok Online almost any other MMO.